You are live.
Okay, we are starting the meeting of the Environmental Concerns and Real Property Services meeting.
Hello? We're in a meeting? Sorry, Chairman. Didn't mean to step in.
Step right out there.
Things are necessary.
Thank you very much. Our first order on our agenda is to approve the minutes of our prior committee meeting. Supervisor McGowan, second by Supervisor Droste. Any comments, observations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The budget, Lexi, kind of give us a sense of the field for where we're going.
Okay. Sorry, trying to get organized. Okay, so all my budget information was included in your packets. I really didn't have too much for changes this year. There was a decrease in my revenue account 2229 on this is on the 1355 budget. There is the three, one's the ARPA money, and then the other one is the 1970. So on the 1355, 2229 with sales data transmission fee, that was an agreement that we had with New York State for sales scan. We were processing for them. They hit the percentage of having the number of counties involved that they wanted, and it was their choice to end the agreement. So we are no longer receiving that money. It only went into like January of this year. They let us claim, so we are not receiving any of this year's money as well. So it's removed completely for next year. But back to the top of that sheet, the 1250 assessor fees, I did raise that by 400 from last year. School processing fees, I increased by $15 just based on last year's amount. The licensing fees, that would stay the same. That's money we charge back to the towns for the RPS license fees. We pay half as a county, and then we charge back the other half to the towns. The 3040, the real property tax admin, that's reimbursement money from New York State for my education and conference. And the next page is expenses. If we go to supplies, I did look to increase it by $500, but that's really just to try to cover some paper costs. Paper's gone up tremendously, and I do print the truth and taxation letters that go out, and that money, those come out of my regular supplies account. Reams of paper were $3.61 a ream. Some of them have gone anywhere from $10 to $20 a ream, or they could be close to $200 for a case. So my amount of money I'm spent is going up. This year, at the beginning of the year, I think it was in February, I bought my paper for December because I could still get it at $3.61 a ream. I found some on WB Mason's site, so I did do that. Membership and dues, I am asking to increase that up to $450. I want to include money for my deputy to have a New York State Assessors Association membership, so that when she does take education classes, they will be at a cheaper cost, because New York State Assessors Association is the one that puts those on. And if you don't have a member, they charge you a larger amount. And the New York State directors increased their dues a year ago. So we needed another 25 more. So it's a total of 150 more to that account. And then travel and education was a jump. My deputy really needs to get her training so that hopefully when I retire, I'm hoping for July of 2025 to retire. She would hopefully be able to come into this position. New York State has to certify anybody for the position of the real property director before the county can even consider hiring So once New York State approves, then the county can consider those applicants. Because real property tax law supersedes local law. So my position is a mandated position by New York State, and I have a 6-year appointment. My appointment will end the last day of September of 2025. So there'll be a couple of months that she may have to be appointed, hopefully, to fill my position, and then she could get her own appointment for October 1st. Just so you're all aware, I know I talked about this a little bit at my budget meeting. Come 2025, there'll probably going to be a lot of changes in assessors and directors throughout New York State because all of our terms end. We're an aging community, you could say, for these positions. A lot of people I know are looking to retire out of their positions. I know we have 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 in Warren County that are looking to retire from assessor positions. So it's just something that you may want to consider talking with your town assessor, if you haven't already, about what their plans are, if they plan on staying or retiring. There's a big concern across New York State as to finding assessors to fill some of these positions. It's not something that somebody just comes out of school and says, hey, I want to be an assessor, or I want to go to college to be an assessor. I'm asked a couple of times to members of our local assessors association. The Horicon assessor was just appointed as the president of the New York State Assessors Association just this past week, I think it was. So I have spoken with her and asked if there's any way they could work with the education unit through the New York State Assessors Association to try to come up with a program to maybe be offered at like BOCES or at one of the community colleges. I'm just not sure the Assessors Association will want to do that because they all get paid to teach these classes and to have these classes. So I just think there may be a dilemma in 2025 with a shortage. I just wanted to put it out there. I know it's kind of off the budget thing, but just so that you're all aware. So that is a big reason why I increased my education code, was to be able to get Kristen more training and to stay on top of my continuing ed. I have to have 12 credits a year. So it's mandated. So Kristen this past summer did go to Cornell, which is a New York State assessors program they offer every summer. And she ended up, her parents have a second home out that way. So she was able to stay there because if not, I wouldn't have been able to afford for her to go and take some of this training this summer. We were able to afford to pay for the class, but I couldn't afford to put her in a hotel. And any of you supervisors that have assessors under you know that that summer program, I think, was about $1,600 for the week-long session. So I didn't have that extra money, but she was able to at least get the class and she got mileage reimbursement. So, so we're hoping by putting the 3,000 there for education, we can continue to get hers as well as my continuing ed. But those are the changes that were made this year to that part of my budget.
On this contract line, though, you deleted, you went from 105,944,000 to 0.
Where,
What was that one, did you say?
that's because that would be money moved over from the reserve testing fund to do any environmental cleanups.
Okay.
So that always goes back to 0. If there was any environmental cleanups being done by real property, which I don't think that's happening in the future, but I may be wrong, then money would get added into that. I have no control over that money. It's money that's added from the reserve testing fund.
So we would do a budget amendment later at Timberland.
It would be a resolution passed to transfer the money. Yep. Any other questions on 1355?
Thank you very much, Lexi. Very well done. Appreciate it.
Okay, so the 4999, that's like with the ARPA money. I don't have anything to talk about on that. There is money in there, 6,000 and change, I believe. But that was the amended 22 budget, 23, there's nothing, and that was for computers. And then there is the 1970, which is my supplies to town. This is supplies that are used for assessment rolls, tax rolls, tax bills, any of the stuff that we have to use to print. So also the paper. We also supply tax maps yearly to the towns per law. And we house those out to be printed. That does come out of here as well. So that is what I have there for budgets. Any questions on either of those two? I did also include the salary schedule. And I did want to mention that I did put in for a personnel request, but I was guided that it didn't need to be in this submission for budget review, but I did want to let you all know that I did ask for an increase. I said I would stay at grade 15, but I did ask to go out to the 25th year increment. So I just wanted to let you all know that. No questions on budget? You want me to just keep moving?
Discussion on real property tax law, section 467. Apparently there's some potential changes coming.
Yeah, so I did include in your packet the laws of New York 2022, chapter 488. New York State just made a change. And they are changing to allow for up to $50,000 for the senior exemption, or should I say for persons 65 years of age or over, and for persons with disabilities and limited income. I did pass out to you all here a sheet that shows the 24,000 max income limit. That's where the county's current levels are. The next one down would be 35 and the bottom would be 50. I just put those two options of 35 and 50 on there just so you could see what the sliding scales would be. If you flip over on the back of that sheet, there is like the potential impact of what it would be to the county. And it would really be if you went to either. I mean, the unknown potential impact would be less, obviously, if you went with 35. But it could be 76,602.69. And I mean, that's a give or take, because you don't know how many other people will now, if the county was to change, would then be able to come forward and apply. We just kind of are basing it on ones that are already in there. We can't base it on anybody's income because we do not have that number here at the county. And not even all assessors have that, because New York State took over the IVP, which is the income verification program. So they're the ones that verify people's income now. So this could be a possible impact if the county so chose to do this. I have talked to a lot of other counties out there. It's been going around on our listserv. A lot of them are really not proposing to go forward or go higher this year. But I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention so that you were aware that it is out there and that the county could change this level at any time. We do currently have 251 of 2012 out there, which put us into the 24,000. So.
Supervisor Leggett, if you want to say something.
And this would require a change to that.
It would, and it should really, I'm not 100% if this is considered a local law or a resolution. When I look at it, it looks like a resolution. But it should really probably be by local law. So maybe if and when the county does choose to, or chooses not to, if they choose to, they could maybe change it at that time to be a local law and change the amounts. Just remember, when you change an exemption and you allow somebody a higher exemption, somebody else has to make up that difference. I understand that the elderly people, you know, we may want to be more generous with because they're living off of a lot less money. But remember, you and I and everybody else in the county are going to have to make up that $76,000 shortage. So your tax rate would increase to offset that.
Well, I have to make the comment, Lexi, that real property taxes are regressive. So the more that we can help people at the lowest income,
Mhm.
the better for them. And yes, other people will have to make it up, but theoretically, they have more means
Mhm.
to make it up if they're making more money, have
Correct.
more of an income.
Yep.
I mean, when did you say that was passed?
Oh my God, it's just been within like the last, really thought it was last month or two.
No, our 24,000 limit.
Oh, back in 2012. Back in 2012, because that's when I think they changed it then, but in between, they have bumped it up to 29,000. But the county didn't act on any of that either. So there is, you know, it could be, I just wanted to bring the information. I didn't come prepared with any resolutions. But I wanted to put it out there to the committee so everybody was aware that, you know, we could possibly do a resolution or, excuse me, a local law to amend our last resolution from 2012 and increase. And it doesn't even have to be those figures that I proposed to you. I just wanted you to be able to see what the sliding scales would look like if it was either 35,000 or 50 being the max that New York State would allow. It would give down to 5% people up to $59,399 that would still get, you know, 5%.
Go ahead, Claudia.
I mean, I would like to see us put this on the agenda and have another discussion about it.
I couldn't agree with you more. That's an excellent suggestion that we can think about it. We can reflect and come back and talk maybe at our next meeting.
Great, thank you.
And thank you. Supervisor McGowan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I don't know if we need to go into an executive session or not, but in the past, I have advocated, you know, for salary increase for certain employees. And it was brought in for a request. I'm wondering if we can discuss this again due to the what was it, the workshop or the
Budget team.
but what did we, Ryan had it together, you know, he was working on the new implications of the worksheet for salaries and the times and what the word I'm looking for. And this was brought up 2 years ago. I believe it started back with Supervisor Bramer, and then I followed through with it, and we've heard nothing, and she's asking again, and I think you know, certain employees do a nice job for the county, so.
Yes. Claudia.
Rachel,
I'm sorry.
thank you, Chairman. I do need a name tag, clearly. So over the years and particularly this year, we have heard that the budget season is the right time to talk about these salary differences. And we've also heard and witnessed changes in salary levels and bringing on employees, taking into consideration their previous service or their total service at the county. And I don't think it would be inappropriate for this committee to share our support or our dialogue with the budget officer and how we feel about this, because it should be consistent across the board. If Lexi's been here that many years, then we should have her years be reflective of that. And I just think that while I don't understand the differences of Lexi being advised not to bring it to this committee, when we had Joy LaFallon the other day, who had it on her agenda, and we were talked to about it in almost every committee about salary increases. So I don't know what the protocol is or the policy, but that guide, that chart was just a guide. It's never been voted on by our entire board. And I know many changes have been made to it. But I would agree with Supervisor from Queensberry that this would be the relevant time to talk about it.
And also for clarification on that guide that was put out there, that those were more merit increases and not direct year to year increases for out of unit, just for that clarification. It's confusing because in the union contracts, it does go by year. And correct me if I'm wrong on any of that, but these, it's more on a step based on merit.
Go ahead.
Perhaps we could look into that a little bit more, because I have countless examples of where it's happened in the opposite direction recently. So I think it's probably worth more of a dialogue. But I wasn't in those budget workshops. I'm just bringing it up to support this request. That's all.
Mr. Chairman, there is a lot of confusion about that, and it's been discussed at Budget Committee quite a lot, and we do need to clear up that confusion.
Thank you.
Is this the appropriate committee to clear up this confusion?
Oh, not for that, but as far as the matter that's on the table.
Well, I don't believe there is a matter on the table, but I will put a motion on the table if we think that's necessary to support the director's request to be bumped to the 25th increment. She's been here over 25 years, and I certainly think her her work merits that level. If that is, the chart is only for meritorious increases, I would support that, and I would make that a motion.
Okay.
Second it.
Second. Supervisor McGowan, any discussion?
Sorry.
I was going to second it.
Okay, sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Now, the
Okay.
last issue, which I think is probably, in my opinion, the most important item on the agenda, is a discussion relative to some verbiage, some legal language in our county foreclosure documentation that there seems to be some, let's say, some difficulty in terms of the integrity of some of the language, the legal language in the document. So maybe you can take it from that point.
Sure. So I did give you guys some stuff today that was language that's currently in the deeds for the properties that are sold at our tax foreclosure sale. Also, our terms and conditions of sale. In the terms and condition of sale, in paragraph 6, subsection F is the language that we're talking about. This was changed in 2019 per resolution 339 of 2019, which amended the Warren County real estate auction terms and conditions of sale applicable to the sale of parcels acquired by the county by reason of the foreclosure of tax liens. Recently, this went to the Personnel, Finance, and Administration meeting brought forth by our county attorney, Elman, due to a piece of property in the town of Queensberry. We had a piece of property that an attorney reached out to their office, Attorney Roth, in regards to his client having this language in his deed, and they were trying to sell the property. And they were having difficulties because the title search brought back this language, which made it uninsurable because of this language in the deed. And we ended up, the board put through a resolution at the last board meeting to correct his deed and remove that language. This property is in the town of Queensberry. The county has no rights to try to overrule the town of Queensberry's code. They have their own code. We have nothing to do with their code. We cannot supersede them. I did reach out to Supervisor Stroud, who did reach out to their town attorney, who stated that since we do have our own code compliance rather than the county, this would be relevant or would not be relevant or applicable for properties located within Queensberry, which is totally true because we cannot step over Queensberry. I have also had conversation with some title insurance companies, abstract companies. I spoke with Barb Krogman, and she did write up a little something for me, which from her reviewing some of this stuff, it made her ask questions. But she just wanted to give me her thoughts and let me know that she has questions with regard to the language Warren County has added to their tax sale deeds. She had reviewed one of the recorded deeds and believed that the language referring to Warren County Board of Supervisors, or that the language referring to Warren County Board of Supervisors Resolution 339 of 2019, specifically Section 6, subsection F, would make the property unmarketable. With these clauses in there, nobody's going to be able to sell their property because nobody's going to be able to get title insurance on their property unless the county changes this language. We would either have to file some type of release or a correction deed that would have to be tagged to the deed. Bear in mind, this went in these deeds first back in 2019. It's now less than a month away from our 2022 foreclosure sale, which will be the 4th year with this language in the deeds. I think it's going to cause more issues than anything. When this was brought about, we had said that we would have people within 24 months have to clean these properties up, which means they would have to get a building permit to be able to go in and do that. So far over these 4 years, one out of all the properties, and I know I should have gotten you a number and I did not, of the past 4 years of what we've sold, but one person went to our building and codes for a building permit. And when they did so, the property they had bought had a building permit. All they did was renew that building permit that was already existing. So this went in 2019, but nothing's been done with this. Nobody has done anything. So if somebody has cleaned up their property, they did it without a building permit. I don't know if they've even approached the town about what they need to do with it. So this language is in there, but because this piece from Queensberry was brought forth because they want to sell it, they had made improvements in Queensberry. They put new windows in, a new door. They had gutted the inside and did a bunch of work on the inside, but it still was not at the point where a building certificate of occupancy had been issued. So they wanted to sell it, but the only way they could sell it was to have this language removed from the deed. And the only way that that was possible, because I don't have money to do a correction deed in my budget, nor did the county attorney's office. The attorney who acted for his client and said, well, we want to act quickly because we've been held up this far. So they offered to pay to have that correction deed done and recorded. So I don't know if that stipulation should really be put on the people that bought these properties at the tax foreclosure to have that language removed. If the county, by putting this language in, has made these properties unmarketable, is that shame on us or shame on the people for not following through? So I don't know. I just wanted to bring this out. I know that our county attorney could not be here today to add his input on this. So, we can also table this if you would like and bring it back next month. But I guess my thoughts would be to request to remove this language from all the tax sale deeds going forward. But that's just my opinion, and I don't get to really make it when it comes to this. And if you don't want to go down that option, then another option would be to at least request to remove this language from all deeds in the town of Queensberry that are being sold at our tax sales, because we can't supersede their code. So it shouldn't be in there. And also to possibly consider removing this language from all properties that have the 300 property class codes. And because those are all the vacant lands, and leaving it in, I guess, for 200s, which are all residential, and 400s, which are commercial. So those are just a couple of different options that are out there, but I would really like to bring this back and have further discussion about this when our county attorney could be available to add information.
Thank you, Lexi. Supervisor Dickinson.
Good job. It is complicated. Truthfully, I don't understand what they were trying to accomplish. Craig?
If I remember correctly here, this came about because properties were bought in the towns and nothing was done with them. And so they remained as a blighted property. And it was seen by the board at the time to put these provisions in to spur people to clean up the property. If you bought it at a foreclosure, you're going to invest in this and make this not be a problem to the community any longer, that the towns had already been suffered from the lack of attention to certain properties. So I think a lot of it had to do more with properties that were in a great state of disrepair and not ones that were already habitable such. And correct me if there's any other discussion.
Should that be a county obligation or shouldn't that be the town?
The idea was this is a leverage point. So when the deed is being transferred over, it's a covenant in the deed that you do this.
Yeah, but it's not working.
But that's time for review.
I just want to add a little bit more to that. So it was language that was put in there because there was properties that people had bought and just left sit and not do anything. They may have acquired a building permit, but never moved forward with it. And you can renew a building permit every year. So they could just get a building permit and not do anything and then renew it again, renew it again, renew it again. So we were trying to stop that cycle. However, in here, we're only giving them 2 years to clean this property up. The properties in 2019 have gone past their 2 years. And none of them, we also did give them the option to apply for an extension of another 2 years at a fee of $250, that they would have to write a written request to our county administrator for him to approve and collect this $250. However, that has not happened on any of these properties either. And in doing so, if they don't do that, then the county could request, subject to board approval, to commence legal proceedings to retake title to the property. I'm not quite sure how much that would cost the county to start a legal proceeding on all those properties that we sold in 2019 that have not moved forward with following up on this, but that's going to be at a cost to the county.
Let me just read something before getting
Yeah, go ahead.
Dickinson, Mike, and then Ms. Sieber. This is from an owner of a title company. Lexi, I just wanted to give you my thoughts and have questions with regard to language Warren County has added to their tax sale deeds. I have reviewed one of the recorded deeds and believe that the language referring to Warren County Board of Supervisors Resolution 339 of 2019, specifically section 6F, would make the property unmarketable. So we're selling property at foreclosure, and we have a title company basically saying, I'm not going to sell you any title insurance because the language that is inherent in the document which the purchaser of the property receives is wacko. It appears to be wacko. Supervisor Dickinson, go ahead.
Well, I think the intent was probably good, but that's not the way it carried it out. And it is a serious problem. I certainly wouldn't want to continue selling property tax sale. It's unsaleable. You know, you're defeating the whole purpose of it, trying to get it back
Mhm.
in the marketplace. I definitely think we need to do something about this, and I would like to set it down for next month and get the attorney here. It's resolved. When is the tax sale?
The Friday before the board meeting. So, or the Saturday before the board meeting. So it's the 15th of October. Your board meeting, I believe, is the 21st of October.
Where's the second one?
If we can have clarification.
We wouldn't have enough time to do it.
Just to clarify, is that
this
if
Thursday.
a property can be in compliance on this, and then there is no further deed restriction. Is that correct?
Well, no, because what would have to happen is a release would have to be filed, but how would we know that they're in compliance? So we have no way right now of knowing if anybody is in compliance or if they've cleaned these up because they have not gone and got a building permit. And if they did, then that would be one thing, because then they would go to the county code department and ask for a CO. But nobody's done that other than the one particular one in Warrensburg. That's the only one. So right now, like I said, everything from 2019 is really in default of the language that's in their deed, because nobody has gotten anything that they were stipulated to get. So one of the concerns that we may want to have is that, okay, yeah, if we take this out of the deeds going forward, what about all the deeds from 2019, 2020, 2021, and now 22? How do you correct that? And who is going to pay the cost of correcting that? There could be something filed, possibly. We could file something in the county clerk's office. But then you're going to have to reference people by names, every deed and the people by name, so that it gets tagged to them in the county clerk records.
Okay, Supervisor Jurassic.
Yes, clearly we need good guidance from our legal counsel on this. We've got a second meeting on October 6th. So is it possible to
Next week.
have that work done by then?
I doubt it.
What do you think?
Well, the work has to be done by our legal
Yeah,
counsel.
yeah.
Right, but Larry's out of the office through tomorrow and won't be returning until Thursday. I'm not really sure what he has on his schedule from now till the 6th, because that's just next week.
County attorney, he's got something on the side.
Excuse me.
So is he a county attorney or has he got something on the side?
No, I don't know.
So that's a request.
Okay, let's, I would think that when Larry gets back, clearly, this just should be priority number one to get him involved in this. And we do have a board meeting on.
That's right. There's still a board meeting on October 6th following personnel and finance.
Okay,
So are we,
Well, Supervisor McDevitt, I just, at this point in time, would like to make a motion for a resolution that this be prioritized for our 10-6 mid-month board meeting, and that we remove section F pending our county attorney's review. I'm sure we can ask him for this to be made a priority. While it's disappointing to not see any legal counsel in the last 2 days during committee meetings, I'm sure that as soon as he gets back, recognizing the foreclosure sale is on 10/14, that this needs to be addressed pursuant to the director's details on how critical this is to not have another year, the 4th year in a row where we're running into this problem.
we have second by Supervisor
Due to
Dickinson.
the importance, I will third it.
Claudia.
Well, now that we have a motion on the floor to remove the language, I'm kind of torn, because I think it does provide us a good option to help enforce against blighted properties. I do understand what Lexi is saying about it's impacting every single deed. So I will vote in favor of getting rid of it so that it can go forward and be out of the deeds for this auction. What I would ask though is that we look at maybe some of these blighted properties that we don't sell right away at the auction, that we try to get our handle on them and be able to figure out how to manage them going forward on a one-on-one basis. I know that's gonna put some more work on your office or somebody, maybe Charles. But I do think that we shouldn't totally let go of this opportunity to try to manage some of the worst properties like we've done for others that are really bad, like with contamination and that sort of thing. That if it's blighted or it needs to be knocked down, that we try to handle that. I mean, that's what we're here for, and we have a fund to do some of that.
Not just
We have-
regular, that fund is just
we-
for
we-
environment.
We have a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you.
To the same subject, can I just read a little bit further to Ms. Krogman's reply? She also has some questions, and so, which relates to the authority for enacting that resolution that we did. She wanted to know if somebody from the county attorney's office could provide that information to her. And she wanted to know, is the county trying to enforce building and zoning laws through this resolution? And she also wanted to know, has the county set up any procedure for reviewing every tax sale deed recorded since 2019 resolution? It seems like that would be the only fair way to enforce this restriction in right of reverter. The resolution is obviously creating issues relating to good and marketable title. Any information you could pull together would be helpful. So I plan on discussing this letter because I just got it the other day with our county attorney further in hopes that maybe he can give a response to her. Yes. And maybe keep this on the agenda as well.
Thank you, Lexi. Do we have anything else? I don't believe so. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
That was it.
Seconded by Supervisor Dickinson. All those in favor?